learning spoken French from zero can be very easy when you manage to detach yourself from your written notes. And you know why? When you learn a language and you rely on your notes, even if you don't realize it, when you need to speak and you don't have your notes, you're freezing and you're stuck. Because you don't have your notes in your head. So today I'm going to show you how to detach yourself from your written notes to speak French. And you're going to practice spoken French without notes. And it works also if you're a complete beginner. So, in order to speak French, how can you free yourself from your written notes? It requires a change of perspective. With traditional methods, you're used to vertical learning. You learn a conjugation table. Then you learn a list of words. Then you make a written exercise to combine what you learned. And at last, you try to speak. It's painful and boring because you don't see the point. And you hardly practice speaking French. So you're not really learning to speak French. So we're going to practice horizontal learning. We start with the simplest sentence and you say it in French straight away. Then I tell you a new word and I ask you to add it to the sentence that you just made. And you say it straight away. And every time you make a new sentence in French, you reinforce what you already know and you'll learn something new. So today, let's see what we can say with the verb for to give back in French. And by the end of this short lesson, you'll be able to make spoken French sentences by yourself. Even if right now you're a complete beginner and without taking notes. But just by making the sentences out loud when I ask you. So just focus on what I say, relax, and make the sentences. The verb for to give back in French is actually to render. Rendre. So you can say it. Rendre. And like with most French verbs, you just remove the ending to use it in present tense. For most of the pronouns, for the singular pronouns. So it sounds rend. So no D sound, the D is silent, and no N sound either. Just rend. So now, as I is je. How do you say I give back or I render? Je rends. Je rends. So no D sound and you don't pronounce the usual silent endings. Je rends. Really try to think of and say the sentences. That's how it will work. And now, as the je is usually shortened in spoken French, you just hear j. So it sounds je rends. Je rends. He is il. Il. So how do you say he gives back or he renders? Il rend. Il rend. In spoken French, you often drop the L of il. So it sounds more il rend. Il rend. To say change when you mean money, banknotes or coins. You say the money. La monnaie for change. And you always have to say the article. La monnaie. So how do you say he gives change? By saying he renders change. In French, you give back change. So how do you say he renders change? Il rend la monnaie. Il rend la monnaie. And if you want to ask the question, does he give change? You just say the statement, he gives change, with an interrogative tone. Like, he renders change? So how do you ask, does he give change? Il rend la monnaie. Il rend la monnaie. To say to help out, or to do a favor, you say to render a service. Rendre un service. And exceptionally, you don't have to say the article here. Un. So you can just say rendre service. So how do you say I do a favor or I render service? Je rends service. Je rends service. Now let's speak a French first name. Noémie. Noémie, a female first name. If you want to say, I do a favor for Noémie, in French, that for is going to be à. So how do you say, I do a favor for Noémie? Je rends service à Noémie. Je rends service à Noémie. And the words service and à are really close. They sound like one word. Service à. Je rends service à Noémie. How do you ask the question? Does he do a favor for Noémie? Il rend service à Noémie. Il rend service à Noémie. So here, I really recommend you to not taking notes, even if you want to. Just keep it in your head and make the sentences out loud. That's the most important, to speak French. Now you can follow the same model to say to visit someone. You have to say to render visit. Rendre visite. And you add à to introduce the person you're visiting. And be careful, the verb to visit alone doesn't work in French when you visit someone. Because we would have the impression that you're visiting the body of a person as if it was a monument. So that sounds weird. So it's to render visit. Rendre visite. Now let's speak a male first name. Florent. So how do you say, I visit Florent? Je rends visite à Florent. Je rends visite à Florent. We still need the à every time we use the verb rendre. Je rends visite à Florent. And you hear visit and à as one word. Visita. Je rends visite à Florent. The word for but is mais with a silent S. Mais. Before is avant. Avant. So how do you say but before? Mais avant. Which you're likely to hear very close, as if it was one word. Mais avant. Mais avant. So how do you say, I visit Noémie, but before I do a favor for Florent? I let you think you can pause the video, but really go slowly, one idea at a time, one block at a time. I visit Noémie, but before I do a favor for Florent. I visit Noémie, but before I do a favor for Florent. Je rends visite à Noémie, mais avant, je rends service à Florent. Je rends visite à Noémie, mais avant, je rends service à Florent. That one was a long sentence. Let me know in the comments if you had it. Do you remember how we say he gives change in French? You can say it. He gives change. Il rend la monnaie. Il rend la monnaie. So, if you're still here, that means two things. You're motivated. And now, you see how you can manage to make French sentences straight away when you're properly guided. That's how you get used to speak French, because it's happening in your head. So it becomes yours. If you'd like to go further in spoken French, you can check out my free masterclass. It's a video series where I guide you through spoken French. I cover many more sentences and French ideas. The link is in the description, so I see you there.